Hey everyone, this is Adam Elenbaas from Nightlight Astrology. Today we're going to take a look at the new moon in Virgo. More specifically, we're going to take a look at the sign of Virgo and all that it implies for not only the new moon cycle, but for the subsequent solar eclipse that's coming in the sign of Virgo. So this will be a nice opportunity to review some of the symbolism of Virgo. And I'm going to give you 5 things to watch for in those 4 big areas of life: psychological, relational, work or public, and private or family life. I think that's been a nice way of breaking things up this summer. So we're going to continue doing that today, also kind of deepening into the sign of Virgo. Again, the new moon in Virgo comes through on Saturday, so it's appropriate not only for this coming weekend to be thinking about this, but then for the subsequent next new moon that is a solar eclipse in Virgo. So that's our agenda for today. Before we get into it, as always, remember to like and subscribe. The algorithm finds us when you drop a comment, when you hit the thumbs up button, when you subscribe, if you watch regularly. We're seeing if we can get to 100,000 subscribers on the channel by next summer. Big goal, but I think we can do it. It comes because of all of you pitching in to make the channel successful. You can find transcripts of any of these daily talks on my website, which is nightlightastrology.com. When you are over there, the promotion for the day is our upcoming retreat. We are over a third of the way full right now. There's only 75 spots on the retreat, so we've got a little over 20 people who've already signed up. That's really a great start. I'm recording this only 2 days after the retreat has opened to the public, so by the time you listen to this, it's possible we'll be closer to full. So make sure you sign up right away. Go to the events page, click on Immersive Retreat. This retreat training program is a brand new program called the Oracle Within, a training in the theory and practice of divinatory astrology. It is taking place June 6th to 13th in Mexico next year. Everything you need to know is on this page. And then at the end of today's content, there is an informational video that I've tagged on. You can also find that informational video on the website. It'll tell you a lot more about what the retreat is about, who it's for, what it includes, how to register. So check that out. And if you have any questions, feel free to email us, info@nightlightastrology.com. Although I will tell you that there is a really rich FAQ section as well. So I'm guessing that everyone will be able to answer all the questions you need with all of those resources. All right, let's turn our attention to the real-time clock for today. Here we have it coming through on Saturday. If I back this up just slightly, you're going to see that the eclipse is taking place at 0 degrees of Virgo and very early Saturday morning. So that would be coming Friday night into Saturday morning that the new moon actually takes place. Not super important that you, unless you're doing something ritualistically, that nothing usually happens at the seeding point of a new moon cycle that's super spectacular unless it's hitting something in your chart. It's more about the story that the lunar cycle tells as it unfolds from this starting point. The seeds of a cycle are rooted in the nature of the sign of the new moon and anything else that's going on in the sky around it at the time. I want to talk a little bit about what that might look like, given that we have a new moon taking place in a close square with Uranus. Both are happening in Mercury-ruled signs. What does that mean? A couple of things that come to my mind immediately, just focusing on the fact that both the new moon in Virgo and the square to Uranus in Gemini feature a strong emphasis on Hermes Mercury. What that tells me is that ideas are going to be a very important part of the cycle ahead. How are your ideas changing? How are they being spoken or articulated, especially when new ideas come into your mind? What sphere of life are new ideas or maybe even different ways of thinking about things making an impact? You could also think about a cycle that's so focused on Mercury as providing new plans or new forms of technology. Sometimes there's an emphasis on learning or skill development. Sometimes Mercury, who rules marketplaces, will feature a cycle like this with such strong emphasis on Hermes, will feature innovation in the way you do work or how you do work, or participation in marketplaces and things that are being exchanged. A cycle like this featuring a square to Uranus at the outset could also mean that there is some need to be innovative. The need could be created through stress or tension because of that opening square to Uranus, but the cycle ahead may have something to do with innovating solutions to problems, for example. The innovation is there, but the square implies there may be tension behind the need for the innovation. Another way of thinking about it would be that this is a cycle that could feature disruption. Uranus is a planet that often disrupts norms, often with things that are exciting, or the disruption to the status quo brings about a creative release of energy that's, again, maybe worth getting excited about, but that doesn't mean that the disruption won't be there as well. So a disruptive, slightly chaotic, very creative, problem-solving kind of new moon. Also, one that could bring about new ideas, new technologies, new conversations, new forms of learning, new skill development. I love all of this. To me, it feels like a new moon cycle that's really exciting. Now, I want to add to this that when this moon cycle is over, the next new moon cycle begins again at the very last degree of Virgo. So we're going to see, for example, that when we get to about September 21st, I'm just going to put this back up on the real-time clock. Give me just a second to get it situated here. We have the very first degree of Virgo and the very last degree of Virgo. Now, I don't have any interpretation of that other than to say that we certainly seem to be covering everything Virgo has to offer, right? So here is the new moon, which is a solar eclipse with the south node at the very end of Virgo. That's coming September 21st. So to me, what's interesting is that we have a very Uranian cycle in Virgo that could represent some ways in which, let's say, things that have to do with Virgo are also being revolutionized through the influence of Uranus and Gemini. I say this because sometimes Virgo can get stuck in very specific ways of doing things or thinking about things, and sometimes could be criticized as being one of the more rigid mental or earthy signs. Virgo can be a little insistent that this is the right way of doing things, or this is the only way of doing things, or there's a certain meticulous way that things must be done. I wonder how much of that might be getting broken up with something that actually gets things done, maybe just as well, if not better, but represents an innovation. That could be then taking hold of the next cycle and representing something of what the solar eclipse is bringing as this gateway and opening that's a little bit more powerful with part two being the second moon cycle in Virgo. So it's going to be interesting to track this together. We'll do horoscopes for the new moon in Virgo. We'll do for the solar eclipse in Virgo. We will do horoscopes for the lunar eclipse in Pisces as well. Those will be covered in the monthly overview for September. So if you're looking for that, just stay tuned and know that I'll probably be covering those with some of my sort of sacred image approaches that I take, or maybe we'll look at specific delineations for the horoscopes in those 4 areas of life that you guys know I like to look at. And so we'll find new ways of breaking those down as we come closer to the time. What I want to do today is I want to talk about the sign of Virgo and what it may provide us with, not just in this new moon cycle that starts on Saturday. And I've already kind of covered the Uranian piece of that, right? So I'm going to just be focused on Virgo for now. And I want to look at it from the standpoint of those 4 areas and 5 things to watch for in each of them. Internal psychological, we kind of think about that as the 1st house. Relational, romantic, 7th house, interpersonal. Work or public, the 10th house, and private or family life or home life with the 4th house. Within that sphere, what I'm thinking about are themes that are so Virgoan, the contrast between purity and innocence, or loss of innocence, or initiation, which is a hallmark of the sign. The question of forgiveness and perfection, the things that are stained or fallen versus perfect and pure, strong tension in the sign of Virgo. The difference between youthhood and adulthood, and the initiations that take us from one to the other without being too traumatizing, or sometimes they include trauma, but then we have to heal from it. This is a hallmark of the harvest maiden sign that ushers us into the dark half of the year, into the underworld, so to speak. Care and concern for how things are done. This is a sign that prepares us for the harvest, that has a lot of thoughtfulness or foresight for judgments or evaluations that are coming based on work and effort, based on care and meticulousness, based on craft and attention to detail. And then the harvest that comes from that is anticipated with the fall equinox, or the sign of Libra, the scale that balances and weighs things. Health and wholesomeness, these are major concerns of the sign of Virgo, similar to things like innocence. but also health and wholeness and their relationship with, the faults and flaws of just being human, the depths, and how do we maintain a spirit of purity or innocence while not being naive to the reality of the depths or the underworld. These are the kinds of tensions that are on my mind as I craft this list. So, given all of that, let's get into it. Looking at the internal and psychological sphere, 5 things that come to my mind as internal experiences we could be having all throughout Virgo season and kind of spreading out, rippling out through time, even in longer cycles in the months ahead due to the solar eclipse that's coming. One would be perfectionism versus self-forgiveness or compassion for self. That's just a very basic Virgoan theme. When is your inner voice becoming punitive and cruel and perfectionistic? And when do you need to soften into forgiveness versus when do you need to step it up and maybe, be a little bit more careful and do better work? Virgo has a pretty high standard for us that isn't always a bad thing, but it certainly can be if we're trying to be perfect. Number 2 would be beginner's mind. Virgo is a great sign for just saying, I don't know anything, or I'm going to embrace a position of sacred doubt. I don't know why, and I want to know why. Like my daughter's a Virgo rising. She asks why about everything. Beginner's mind. Number 3 would be harvesting lessons. Like I did it this way, I did it this way, I did it this way, it didn't work, and now I know what to do, or I can make adjustments because of time and experience. So these Virgo cycles are very good for, they're very educational, where we can see what works and what doesn't work and adjust or make improvements. This is a sign that really benefits from an improvement-oriented mindset. I'm going to get better at something. I know that we're all taught nowadays that getting better at something is almost tantamount. It's like saying, well, you're being hard on yourself. No, you could still get better at things. You shouldn't be allergic to being real evaluators of where we're at and saying, I can get better. Virgo is very good at holding us accountable to just literally getting better at things. We think about the sacred order versus a meticulous order rooted in control and fear and anxiety. What does sacred order look like, where peace and serenity are in the backdrop as opposed to order that's rooted in fear, control, or anxiety? And then I would say, how do we maintain a spirit of innocence while also getting in touch with and somehow even embracing darker realities? These are all Virgoan themes that I could see us dealing with on internal and psychological levels. Let's go to love and relationships and give us a list of 5 things to watch for in the realm of love and relationships. Care and concern as a love language. I care about you. I'm concerned. I'm paying attention. This is a great theme. And where there's a lack of this, we may really notice it as well. Number 2 would be the building of trust, where I think how many of us, if I just use the paradigm of like when you first start dating, and there's a level at which trust and safety is such an important feature of feeling like you can open up, especially when you're young. At least that's my memory. Being nervous and dating as a teenage boy or something, it was like, there was so much anxiety. And then you feel safe. And then, oh my gosh, then you have a girlfriend or a boyfriend or whatever, a partner, and you feel safe and you can open further. So trust building leads to greater ability to be vulnerable in relationships. Real Virgo theme. The trust is important. Themes around any of that would be important. Number 3 would be managing expectations of one another in relationships. Don't be perfectionistic and overly critical of one another or of oneself in terms of what we expect of ourselves or others in a relationship. Number 4 would be that where the perfectionism might be an issue, there might be an opportunity to deepen a relationship because of the choice to forgive, to allow for blemishes. And number 5 would be anything that requires putting your heads together and learning something together, or maybe planning or organizing things together. I could see that being kind of a lovely little expression of the Virgo qualities in relationships. Anything that has to do with learning or education or something a partner's going through with respect to Virgo themes in another area of life could come up as well. All right, let's talk about career, work, or public life. I would think in work, this has to do with meticulous execution, real attention to details in projects that absolutely require it, that require a high level of care, concern, and involvement. I would also be careful of perfectionism sabotaging good work. Uh, any time that you're ready for an initiation into a new role with greater responsibility, more adult capacity, if you're young and you're moving up in a company and like you're becoming more of an adult. So any way in which new roles or new ways of doing things constitute a kind of initiation, and maybe some anxiety around that, the readiness to step into things, even if you might mess them up because it's time to grow. I would also think about harvest season at work, anything that's being brought to fruition with a lot of previous care and effort that's gone into it. Very Virgo. Virgo is a sign that loves to reap what is sown, although sometimes it has a hard time actually stepping back and enjoying and receiving the fruits of its labor. So make sure that you do that if it's appropriate. I would also wonder about your purity of purpose. If Virgo is doing a lot of work but feels like a slave, this can be a theme in the workplace that maybe is unfortunate part of recognizing that something's not working. Can or if anything feels menial or remedial or like you're an indentured servant or something, you know what I mean? Like be careful of that. And then finally, I would think of constructive critiques. Maybe you're in the position of having to offer them or receive them, or maybe you're dealing with people who are being overly critical and you have to speak up for yourself. So watch for all of those things anyway in the career or workplace. And then finally, I want to talk about family dynamics. I would say that, and see this in our own house. It's like seasonal prep. I put things away from the summer, put the basketball hoop in the garage, clean the garage, get it ready for winter. We change the decor in our house to fall and kind of Halloween and stuff like that. It comes pretty quick in Minnesota. But anyway, so any kind of seasonal shift or change within the home or family that needs like tidying, organization, reorganization, very simple, but you could see something like that. Maybe there's also a tie into needing to change something in the environment through care and attention to detail and reorganization. I would watch for moments of initiation or transitions between youth and adulthood, or life initiations within family and family constellations. I would specifically think about order and care within the household. Who's doing what? How are responsibilities being divvied up? Does anyone feel like, they're giving too much, or does anyone feel like things are too tight or controlled? I would also think about the meaningful exchanges between youth and adults and families, such a Virgo theme. And then I would think about how to create a feeling that the home is sacred, healthy, wholesome, clean, organized, but not rooted in fear or control. Those are the kinds of themes that come up for me when I think about these 4 areas of life. We'll do some horoscopes, obviously, for both the solar and lunar eclipses in Pisces, but this week it felt good to just spend some time with both of these. Again, this first cycle, pretty Uranian. I wouldn't be surprised if any of these Virgo themes were paired with discovery, innovation, rebellion, originality, breaking the mold, a little bit of disruption or chaos, especially at the outset of this upcoming cycle. But I love new moon cycles that have nice aspects to Uranus, especially the affinity that both signs have to Mercury. Feels like this could be a really like break the mold and a lot of original thinking or inventiveness that's behind this upcoming cycle. I personally like that as someone who has Virgo in my 5th, which is a creative house. So like maybe I'm excited for it for that reason. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about the sun squaring Uranus, which comes through on Sunday just after the new moon. I want to separate that out a little bit because it's worth some time and attention to break that part of the new moon into a smaller chunk. So we'll do that tomorrow and prep you for the weekend in that way. By the way, I hope you've been enjoying the weekend bonus content that we started doing with the old crew of contributors. I'm so happy that they're making bonus content for the weekend. So, there'll be more of that coming in over the weekends in the months ahead. But check out, they did some work on Madonna's chart that I thought was really fun. And I told them, just be creative, go have fun with this. Come up with content that's, doesn't have to fall in line with the way I do things Monday through Fridays. But anyway, after I sign off right now, the informational video about the retreat, it's right outside of Puerto Vallarta in Mexico next June. We're filling up quickly. I'm recording this like 3 days in, and we're like over 20 people signed up already. So be sure that you sign up and check out the informational video next. All right, bye. Hey everyone, thanks for sticking around. I'm really excited to tell you more about the Oracle Within, the retreat that we'll be hosting in Mexico in June of 2026. So this is a little informational video that I've made to answer all the questions that you might have about the retreat. In this video, I'm going to start by telling you more about what you will learn on the retreat, what the focus of our studies will be, and then I'm going to tell you about our daily format and sort of what day-to-day life will look like at this retreat center outside of the actual material we'll be studying. I'm going to then tell you who this retreat is ideal for, what kind of background you may want to have before coming along. And then finally, I'm going to tell you more about how you can register. And of course, I'll take you over to the actual retreat website page so that you know where all of the information is located. There's also a really rich FAQ section that will probably answer any further questions you may have. On that note, let's start with what will I learn? So for a very long time, astrologers have talked about what astrology is. What is this? Is it some kind of karmic science? Is it a science of causal energies and influences? Is this actually scientific? Like, what order of knowing is astrology? If we say we can know something about reality, then how can we actually say that when it comes to astrology? These may seem like really deep, dense philosophical issues, but actually they're at the heart of what it means to really deepen into astrology. To have an understanding of what this actually is so fundamental and so helpful. Throughout all of the programs that I teach at Nightlight, I, of course, talk at length about my belief that astrology is a form of divination, that this is a language of signs and omens, very much like the tarot or the I Ching or many other systems of symbolic divination from all around the planet. We're going to spend a lot of time on this retreat talking about what astrology is. From a historical and philosophical perspective, what is divination? What is divination, not just in this tradition, but all over the planet? What kind of things does a divinatory view of the cosmos assume about the nature of reality, about the nature of the soul, and what we're actually doing as practitioners when we practice astrology or when we study it or when we use it for ourselves? So one of the teachers that I had that made a huge impact on me, and 12 years ago when Jupiter was last in Cancer, I hosted him for a retreat on astrology as a form of divination, is Jeffrey Cornelius. He wrote this book called The Moment of Astrology, Origins in Divination, which is, in my opinion, one of the best books on astrology ever written. This will be something like a preparatory textbook that a lot of students on the retreat I'll recommend read before you come to this course. Over the program for the course of a full week, in the mornings, we're going to be talking about the history, the metaphysics, the philosophy, the ancient mystics, and what they said about the nature of astrology itself. So we're going to think really deeply about what is astrology. Then in the afternoons, we're going to talk about how to connect with an oracle. Connecting with an oracle, connecting with astrology as a divinatory system, in other words, is about the marriage of intuition and being able to listen to the oracle speak while also utilizing the logic of craft. How do you marry those two things together? It's not something we take a lot of deliberate time to talk about as astrologers. So in the mornings, we're talking about history, philosophy, theory of astrology. In the afternoons, we're going to be talking about how to actually develop a living, vibrant relationship with an oracle so that it's informing how you approach the craft of a reading or how you approach the craft of astrology itself, if it's something that you maybe just use only for you in your own spiritual path. Either way, practitioners, hobby students are all welcome. So a lot of hands-on immersive work with charts, with live clients, with different systems of divination, and talking a lot about how to connect with an oracle experientially in our afternoons, where our mornings will be devoted to theory. It's about 30 to 40 hours worth of content that we'll be doing over the course of a week together, which means this is effectively like one of my advanced training programs condensed into a week. It's brand new material, brand new curriculum, doesn't appear anywhere else in the Nightlight programs, and yet everything that this program includes is really a condensation of the underlying philosophy of astrology itself that is a part of all of the Nightlight programs and all of my work as a whole. And again, most of that was deeply inspired by the work of Jeffrey Cornelius, who's I consider him something of a mentor in my life. So that's a bit about what you will learn. If you have questions about what you will learn, you can feel free to email me for more details, info@nightlightastrology.com. Now, I want to talk about the format of the retreat. When you're on this retreat, first of all, you're in a beautiful sort of jungle beach location near Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, for a week, which means we every day will not just be about theory and experiential, immersive, oracular work, which I'm very excited about. I have a ton of really good curriculum written for us as a group to go through. But in the mornings, we're going to have the option of starting your morning with breath work, yoga, meditation. In the evenings, we'll probably cap our days off with a little bit of centering as well. So my wife, Ashley, who I ran a yoga studio with for a decade, will be with me leading daily meditation and yoga. She is an incredibly good yoga teacher, very grounded and very, wherever your level is at, there'll be something there for you. And that's optional as well. So every day you have a little meditation and yoga. There's healthy food that serves people if you're vegan, vegetarian, or eat meat or whatever. There's options for food. There's a beach, there's a pool, there's some jungle hikes available. So our days will be broken into periods of free time, periods of rest, and periods of focused learning with things like meditation and yoga as options that are there for everyone. We'll also have some other meaningful group exercises that we'll do that will be, again, about how do you connect with an oracle? How do you make a conversation with the oracle a daily part of your life? So that's something of the format that you can look forward to in this beautiful kind of oceanside retreat setting. More information on the website. I'll show you that in a second. Who is this for? Ideally, you are someone who has a background in traditional Hellenistic astrology already. Wherever that comes from, if it's my courses or not, I want people coming to this retreat to have some pretty good solid background in Hellenistic astrology already. Or if you're from within our programs, then as long as you are enrolled in the year one program, you don't have to have finished it. You just need to be at least enrolled in it. Then you would be more than welcome. Any alumni from any of our programs would be welcome. And again, people who with some serious background in traditional astrology already, just because I don't want people to come along with maybe a modern background, but zero understanding of Hellenistic. So that would be who I would recommend this for. Spaces are limited and we anticipate the retreat will fill up rather quickly. So I really recommend registering as soon as you can. You also have the early bird rates to help you save. Finally, how do I register? I'm going to take you over to the website and you will find that here, the website, you can find it under the events page. Go to Immersive Retreat, or under the courses, it's our new course called The Oracle Within. When you scroll down, you're going to see everything that the program includes, basically everything I've gone over, maybe a little bit more details and depth there, as well as a little personal note for me that I wrote about why this means so much to me. You'll learn more about Mar de Jade, which is the beautiful retreat center. You can check it out. You're going to book through us. So you don't book through the retreat center, you book through us, and then we take care of it. At the bottom, you're going to find registration options that will be available starting on August 11th. That's today. Right now, as I'm looking at this, we don't have the prices listed yet. It's still kind of under construction. But at the bottom, you'll find different available options for registering. The different options will include different room options, and there's different. So if you want a private room versus maybe sharing a room with someone we'll assign you with that's part of the group, or maybe even a small group dorm room where there's like 5 people are sharing a room and you're comfortable being with other students on the trip, stuff like that. So there'll be some options there for everyone. There's an early bird rate that'll be in effect until October, saves you a little bit of money off the cost. And then also all of the different room options that are available at different price tiers depending on and they go first come first serve in terms of like, so there's some ocean view rooms. The people who book first will get the best. We just go best available first and just run it like that. So anyway, again, as you are looking over anything on the page, you have any questions, email us info@nightlightastrology.com. I hope that this has been helpful. I can't wait to have finally an immersive in-person training program in a beautiful location. It's nice to do things online, but I really love having in-person time available. And I know that you're going to also really enjoy working with Ashley. During the evenings throughout the week, Ashley will also have some little workshops that she'll be offering as options for people that are part of your retreat package that will be on plant spirit medicine topics and how to use different plant teachers to work with different astrological signatures in the chart. You got a difficult Mars, work with this plant. You got a challenged Venus, try this plant. So there's going to be some really fun little add-ons around plant spirit medicine that Ashley, if you know her on my channel, she talks about plants often, will also lead. So anyway, that's it. That's your informational video. I hope that this was useful. Hope to see some of you on the retreat in Mexico next year. Take it easy, everyone.